My name is Pat McCormick. My wife Donna and I have been Holy Names Associates for a little over a year, and we live at Mary's Woods. On May 20th, I gave this presentation to the formation group of associate candidates preparing to make their commitments later this year. The presentation provides a look at the model of action for justice that has always been part of the SNJM charism. As we introduced ourselves to one another, each person attending shared not only their names, but also the sisters who had influenced them in their lives. Then we shared this prayer for justice. God of compassion and courage, you call us to be instruments of peace in a wounded world. In the spirit of Blessed Marie-Rose Durocher, grant us hearts that listen deeply, hands ready to serve, and voices willing to speak for justice. Where there is division, help us build understanding. Where there is poverty, move us to share generously. Where violence and hatred persist, strengthen us to stand with the vulnerable and work tirelessly for reconciliation and dignity for all people. Teach us that peace is more than the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice, compassion, and hope. May we not remain comfortable in the face of suffering, but respond with faith-filled action in our communities, workplaces, and the world. Like Blessed Marie-Rose, may we trust that small acts of love and courage can transform society. Guide us to educate, accompany, and uplift others, especially those too often forgotten. May your Spirit renew the earth and inspire us to become peacemakers each day. Amen. Like you, we started our formation process by reading Pilgrimage of the Heart. I appreciated the imagined words of Mother Marie-Rose that were used in the book, and I was struck at the end of the chapter about her death that we read her imagined words that call us to our subject today. I especially want to reflect with you on how you continue to be challenged by our SNJM charism to cast fire on the earth. Cast fire on the earth. Those words stuck with me. Where did they come from? She went on, today's church and world, very different from those of my day, have need of our charism, alive and active. Now, I realized that the casting fire quote came from Luke's gospel, but where did it come from and what did it mean to Mother Marie-Rose to use that as a call to us? And why was this gospel message so special to Mother Marie-Rose? Those words suggested to me that she was calling her community and us to be passionate pilgrims and advocates. To me, she was and is calling us to bring disruptive energy to the world, pushing for justice, serving the poor, bringing the light of the gospel to the margins of our society. I think she intended the words to ignite our faith and invite us to action. We are meant as SNJMs to do something to bring justice and peace to our world. Those words also call us to seek truth and call out falsehoods. In our world today, that imperative seems even more important and relevant. So my presentation today is intended to help us reflect, as Mother Marie-Rose said to us in that imagined conversation, on how we continue to be challenged by our SNJ and charism to cast fire on the earth. Let me ask you, what does casting fire mean to you? When I was at this stage of the formation process, I wasn't at all clear about what being an associate was calling me to do While I was open to volunteering for new ministries or activities, I wasn't sure what commitment was being asked or expected of me. It wasn't until much later that I thought about my commitments in the context of casting fire. But reflecting on this question, to me, isn't a one-time challenge. I believe that we are continuously called to reflect on our answer to this question about how we are going to cast fire on the earth. First, it was helpful for me to understand the core values of the sisters. In my professional life, organizations with clarity and commitment to a set of values or operating principles were much easier to help navigate through turmoil and troubles. Clients that I worked with included Providence Health System, Tillamook Cheese, both organizations with more than 100 years of understanding their basic values and how to apply them in each situation and in each new day. The core values for the sisters include the full development of the human person, cultivating and respecting the talents, abilities, and potential of each person. Dedication to justice, committing time, energy, and resources to the pursuit of right relationships of equality, justice, and solidarity. Education in the faith, creating an atmosphere which invites people to live, develop, and express their faith. Service to people who are poor or marginalized, reaching out and responding to people who are disadvantaged. Hospitality, being a gracious, accepting, and welcoming presence for each person. Commitment to liberating action, seeking with others the freedom needed to live fully without oppression. Dedication to women and children, seeing, understanding, and responding to the needs of women and children. Love for the names of Jesus and Mary, embracing as a guide, inspiration, and strength the persons and names of Jesus and Mary. I want to share some notable social justice milestones for the sisters. At its founding, the Sisters of the Holy Names of Jesus and Mary reflected Eulali's generous heart for those in need. She and her two companions, Melody Dufresne and Henriette Serret, shared a similar vision, dedicating their lives to the gospel challenge to go and teach, educating the poor, especially young women in rural areas who had no opportunity for education. Then, in 1859, 12 French-speaking sisters traveled from Quebec on a harrowing journey that covered more than 7,000 miles on land and sea, arriving in Portland just months after Oregon had become a state. Within a few weeks, with only a few sisters fluent in English, they opened St. Mary's Academy for girls. Portland's population at the time was about 1,200. Beyond teaching, they took on the work of ministering to the community, visiting the sick, comforting the dying, preparing the dead for burial, and taking in orphans. In the early 20th century, their work in labor and rights advocacy included Sister Miriam Teresa, Carolyn Gleason, who was instrumental in researching and promoting Oregon's first minimum wage and maximum work hour laws for women. In the early years of the 20th century, Oregon was an active center for Ku Klux Klan leadership across the state and in Portland. Many businesses and political leaders were members or supporters of the Klan. In 1922, when the Holy Name Sisters decided to boycott businesses that supported the Klan's response was to support legislation requiring that all children in the state must attend a public school, effectively making it illegal to operate Catholic or other religious schools. The sisters fought the law all the way to the United States Supreme Court, winning the landmark case Pierce versus Society of Sisters. It's interesting to note that Walter Pierce was a Democrat, and in his campaign for governor in 1922, the incumbent governor, Ben Alcott, a Republican, had refused to deal with the Klan and opposed their plan for the overtly anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic Compulsory School Act. Pierce, however, accepted the Klan's endorsement and agreed to support the bill. He was also a believer in eugenics. In the early part of the 20th century, racial and social justice issues that the sisters were involved in included, in 1930, St. Mary's Academy opening itself to black students at a time when many cities and towns in Oregon still had sundown laws forbidding the presence of any black bodies after dark. In 1937, the sisters opened a preschool for Japanese children. And in 1940, the sisters opened an interracial day nursery. In more recent times, systemic change and global action have been involved. Of course, from 1970s to the present, the order had shifted toward direct advocacy for marginalized populations in Brazil, Lesotho, Peru, and North America. Here let me depart for a moment to just share my personal opinions, my observations about the SNJMs, especially in their response to the teachings of Vatican II. I have known SNJM sisters as teachers since the first grade. All through grade school at St. Philip Neri, we had Holy Name sisters teaching us. I married a woman whose oldest sister is a Holy Name sister who lives on campus here. Donna and her sister have 2 aunts that are buried in the cemetery here. In the post-Vatican II changes that challenged the Church to be more conscious of the signs of the times, the Holy Names community were more than shedding just their habits. The sisters, I think, like other communities of women religious, had listened carefully to the call in Vatican II to the faithful, and more carefully and more fully than many in the institutional church in this country had listened. I think their field of vision widened, and many SNJMs found new ways and new places to cast their fires. New ministries blossomed. The missionary zeal that had impelled 12 sisters to leave their convent in Longueuil and travel 7,000 miles during the seasickness and hazards of their long missionary journey to Oregon, that spirit, that charism was renewed in the creative ways Holy Name sisters have found to meet the needs they could see around them in the world. They read and read the signs of the times and re-energized their charism to meet many more people on the margins and serve many more souls beyond those like me who had benefited from the SNJMs as teachers. They were models of virtue and generous supporters of me as teachers, but watching what the SNJMs have done with the lessons of Vatican II has made them role models for me in reading the signs of the times and finding ways to use my gifts and talents to serve those in need. In a moment, I'll talk more about the corporate stands taken by the SNJMs on trafficking of women and children, on water as a human right and public good, and on migrants and refugees. But first, I want to talk about the roots of SNJM focus on justice issues in the context of the community's constitutions. The SNJM constitutions are the foundational guiding principles of the sisters. They establish the community's rule of life, spirituality, and its mission, anchoring their work in education, social justice, and solidarity with marginalized populations. Grounded in the foundation of their charism, the constitutions are periodically reviewed and adapted at general chapters to meet the signs of the times. The constitutions guide the sisters' ministry and daily lives. Dedication to justice, promoting equality and right relationships across local, regional, and global communities. Education in the faith, developing the whole human person through comprehensive and liberating educational ministries. Service to the marginalized, prioritizing and responding to the needs of those who are poor, abandoned, or living on the fringes of society. Dedication to women and children, actively understanding and addressing the specific needs of women and youth. The sisters' overarching mission and values inspire various advocacy efforts, including corporate stands taken on human rights. In Constitution number 13, there are several specific references to justice issues in the Constitution, like in number 13, that education in the faith demands of us active involvement in the promotion of justice. In this spirit and according to the teachings of the Church, our educational endeavors have a special concern for the poor and disadvantaged. Number 14 reads, "We are challenged by the gospel and by the needs of society to unite our efforts with those around us to attain for all people conditions of life more equitable and more worthy of human dignity." Number 34, "In our solidarity with the poor, we seek justice and respect for human dignity. We strive toward the realization of God's plan for the recognition and development of the individual gifts of each person." And number 35, "Our poverty expresses our dependence upon God in hope, anticipating the coming of the kingdom of justice and love." For us to be poor, in spirit and in fact, is a way of living the Paschal mystery. So let's talk briefly about the SNJM corporate stands. These are congregational position statements taken by the Sisters of the Holy Names on issues of justice and systemic concern. The adoption of such a position is the result of a long process of research, prayer, and discussion among SNJM members. For this reason, each statement is identified as a common ministry for the community. This approach serves first to educate religious, then to raise public awareness. Taking a corporate stand is ultimately a public commitment to solidarity with the oppressed and to justice. The official document takes the form of a statement of principle to which means are added to facilitate concrete commitments and encourage the creation of just solutions. In other words, work on these issues continues, and the advocacy related to these issues evolves to remain current, active, and relevant. You can find the SNJM corporate stands at the web address on the screen, but it's probably quicker to just type SNJM corporate stands into Google. It takes you to the same page. Our corporate stand against trafficking in women and children for purposes of sexual exploitation and forced labor was adopted in 2004. In it, the SNJMs committed to educating ourselves and others about the magnitude, causes, and consequences of this abuse, both where we are missioned and throughout the world. Our corporate stand declaring water as a human right and public good was adopted in 2008. The congregation declared water is a sacred gift, connecting all life, and access to clean water is a basic human right. We support policies that ensure universal access to clean water and protect fresh water as a sustainable, renewable resource. And in 2017, the congregation took a corporate stand in solidarity with the migrants and refugees of the world in support of their human rights. We join our voices in the call to all nations, particularly those where there is an SNJM presence, to enforce the implementation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for all migrants and refugees around the world. Since its 2011 General Chapter, the congregation has recognized the importance of uniting all religious in the service of major causes like our corporate stands, in addition to their community's individual commitments. We network with other partners to denounce injustice and lend support in many ways. Here are some examples of SNJM involvement in justice organizations. The province co-sponsors the Inter-Community Peace and Justice Network based in Seattle. It acts for justice in the church and the world. IPJC is sponsored by 16 religious communities and collaborates with Catholic, ecumenical, interfaith, and other organizations to carry out its mission. IPJC areas of focus include anti-trafficking, water, immigration, and economics. Our SNJM congregation participates in 3 non-governmental organizations that help sisters collaborate with national and international agencies working for systemic change. Unanima International, an NGO advocating for women and children, especially those living in poverty, immigrants, and refugees, and the environment, has been a partner with the Holy Name Sisters for years. Development and Peace is the official international development organization of the Catholic Church in Canada. It supports partners in the Global South who promote alternatives to unfair social, political, and economic structures. Network is an organization founded by Catholic sisters in 1971 in the spirit of Vatican II. It's a national Catholic advocacy organization working for social justice, economic equality, and the multiracial, multi-faith democracy. You may know them from Nuns on the Bus. And the Transformation Resource Center is an ecumenical NGO based in Lesotho that advocates for justice, peace, and participatory development. So let me return to the question I posed earlier. How are we called to cast fire on the earth? How do we discern our ministries and missions as associates, or as I think we're going to be called soon, affiliates? Let me tell you about a sister I serve with on a committee whose story I read recently on the SNJM website. Sister Mary Rita Rodi spent 5 years serving on the congregational leadership team in Longueuil. In 2002, she returned to the Yakima Valley, where she had worked at the Heritage University, I should say, before her time in leadership at Longueuil. She knew there were unmet needs in the area, but she was unsure where she could best serve. So she took time to talk with people. She talked with some 80 different folks, teachers, social workers, church outreach workers, others in the community, asking this one question: what is the greatest unmet need among low-income women and children in the lower Yakima Valley? She shared the result of her interviews with local sisters and associates, inviting them to gather and discern with her what ministry she was being called to. As they discussed the information that she shared from her conversations, it became obvious to the group that residents who were most underserved and most vulnerable were immigrant women from Latin America. There were several sisters present. The oldest of the ones who were present was Sister Margaret Downey, and she quickly said this: Sister, you're an educator through and through, so you need to do something to educate immigrant women. In 2003, Mary Rita founded Nuestra Casa, and its growth has been impressive. I encourage you to go to the SNJM website to read more about it and about her. But my reason for sharing her story is to show how she discerned her next ministry. And I think it's a model that we can follow as we look for where we're being called to cast our fire. She knew the community she was returning to had unmet needs, and that some needs may have emerged while she was living in Longueuil. So she started with listening to others who knew the needs of the community. But she was also listening to her own heart. I encourage you to listen to what's in your heart. Is there a fire in you? That's fire that you can cast. And listen to the signs of the times. Where there are needs today, where are they? Where you are and where you live, how can you use what you have inside you to cast fire on those needs? Then pray and ponder. Assess needs, but look realistically at your circumstances and capabilities. Not all of us can follow Sister Mary Rita's example and start a major ministry program. For some of us, our call and commitment may be more limited, but no less important. There are some among us as affiliates and associates who have no longer the ability to take active roles in many of these things, but they serve as prayer associates, helping move us toward justice. In our daily activities, we can be signs of justice, peace, kindness, hospitality, and bring those gifts to the people around us with something as simple as a smile and a conversation. But the whole point is that we need to decide to act. We are called to act for justice, each in our particular way. And as we do that, I suggest we seek allies, join, or if you have to, build a community that shares the goals and work toward those common goals. I want to close by reflecting with a page from Pilgrimage of the Heart on page 102. It asks us to ponder this about the community's casting of fire. What is this fire? This divine source of spirit and life that enabled the weak and the inexperienced to achieve such marvels. Our congregation flourished. From humble beginnings, doomed by many to failure, it grew in numbers at an astonishing rate and spread to faraway places. And so we ask again, what is this fire? This divine gift? Mysterious and of the Spirit, it cannot be captured. It cannot be defined with mere human words. We glimpse its heart through a prism, education in the faith, full development of the human person, gospel women in solidarity for liberating action. We describe core values of our charism, hospitality, dedication to women and children, concern for the poor, dedication to justice, love for Jesus and Mary. General chapter assemblies have tried to discern how this unique and divine gift of the Spirit is to respond to the needs in current times, the threats to our planet, human trafficking, HIV/AIDS, and countless other calls, in collaboration with others through interdependence for mission. Like a flame, the fire of our charism is ever changing shape and color while radiating light and warmth. But its core, active love, ever remains the same. Its energy is unending. Its spirit knows no bounds. All is divine gift, a unique manifestation of the Spirit instilled in Mother Marie Rose and the congregation she founded, so that God's presence on earth might be revealed through us as we seek with Jesus, with Mother Marie Rose, to cast fire on the earth. Thank you.